Hello and welcome to Intuitive Journey with Desiree. I am Desiree Holmes, Scherini, your host, and today I'm very excited to have as my guest Lisa Kessler. She is an author and also just released the Practical Tarot Method book and the Practical Tarot um, deck. And I'm so happy to have it actually here in my hand. Beautiful, beautiful product. And I had some time to go through it and learn a little bit more. And I am just looking forward to hearing straight from her all about it and how she created it. But let me introduce her. She's a professional tarot card reader for over 20 years and has been helping clients all across the globe access their intuition and understand the tarot card process in a more fun, approachable way. In her book, The Practical Tarot Method, she demystifies the most common challenges, misconceptions users face, and she introduces it as a transformative tool for everyone. Lisa is the author of the Practical Tarot Deck and the Practical Tarot Method, as I've said, and learning to read the tarot cards intuitively has been a professional card reader for nearly, so I'm kind of repeating myself because I accidentally cheated and copied two bios. Sorry, people.
That's okay.
And for nearly 20 years. Okay, so she's read her clients across the world, and she's a passionate teacher of tarot. And I think that's really important when someone produces something that they actually love teaching it too. So her tarot courses in the United States, as well as online and to international audiences. She also has her Tarot for Writers course and has been presented at writers conferences and groups around the country to help creatives connect with their intuition through tarot cards. She also posts free weekly tarot readings on her YouTube channel, so definitely check that out. Her fascination with the metaphysical world also led her to work as a docent at America's Most Haunted Residence, the Whaley House in San Diego, where she gave tours and shared ghost stories with guests from around the globe. Her love for all things paranormal is also showcased in more than 40, yes, I said 40, best-selling paranormal romance novels and thrillers. And you can find out more about her books at authorlisakessler.com. When she's not reading tarot or writing books, I don't know what she has time for, but she's she's coaching others to manifest the life of their dreams. You can learn more about her metaphysical manifesting at metaphysicalmanifesting.com. Okay, and so that was a lot to say, but she's a lot of somebody right here. And you can tell simply by, she teaches, created this tarot deck, author of 40 books, and so let's get started. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the great intro.
Thank you for finding the time to be here and talking to me and sharing with the audience all about you and your this particularly the Practical Tarot Method. So what I want to do is I want to start with you.
All right.
Okay. So what's your background? What led you? Where were you before? How'd you get here? How did you start out as a writer, or were you someone in banking and said this is no fun? You know what I'm saying? So I'm curious about your path.
Well, whenever I tell this story, I always have to tell people, I promise it's true, because all of my books are paranormal. And of course, I was a docent at a haunted house. So I'm very into paranormal things. But my writing journey actually was interesting. It's metaphysical as well, but I was actually heavily involved in our family business. I was third generation. We made hospital window blinds, and I also was an opera singer.
Wow.
I sung with San Diego Opera and comic opera and lyric
Wow.
opera and all that. So music background, but I have always loved to write. And in the 90s, I got really heavily invested in Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles because I'm paranormal and I really enjoyed them. But if you remember back then, there wasn't ebooks. And so you would finish a book and it would take a year and a half to get the next book. So back then there were news groups. That's how ancient I am. And there was an Anne Rice news group. And
Okay.
a few of us made
right around the time of MTV.
Right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. when MTV had music. What? Um, but
Oh,
but anyway, a few of us got together and made our own Yahoo group, and we would write our own vampires. So I did that like every night, and I had no idea at the time that I was practicing for my future. No idea. I just loved it, and we would write our own vampires, and that was what I did for fun. So fast forward probably, I don't know, 5 years. And I go to a trade show in New Orleans. And so, of course, I had to go get a palm reading because I was in New Orleans. So I headed into this little shop that I found in the French Quarter, and she did my palm reading, and she was right on, knew I had 2 kids and a daughter who was the oldest. And it was
wow.
really incredible. It was great. And as I was leaving, she's walking me out. And at the door, she said, "Can I ask you something?" And I said, "What?" And she said, "Are you a writer?" And my initial response was, "No, I sell hospital window shades." And then I thought about it and I thought, but I do write for fun. And she smiled and she said, "You're going to be a famous writer someday."
Oh,
And I walked out of the shop with my head going, "What? I sing, I raise kids, I have the work in the family business. I just, but I could, once she, lighted that spark, I could not stop thinking about it. And 6 months later, I had my first book written.
wow.
I'm like, wow, okay. But I had no idea, because that hadn't been my background till then. I had no idea if it was good. So I started writing short stories and tried to get them published to just see, do I even know what I'm doing? And I got some short stories published, and my vampire short story, Immortal Beloved, was actually a finalist for best short story for a Bram Stoker Award. So I was like,
Neat.
okay, so I think I'm okay at this. And I got an agent and started, working on that book. Oh my gosh, what a journey. If you're a writer out there, do not give up. It takes a really long time, and a lot of it is just being in the right place at the right time. So,
Mhm.
but anyway, that was what started it. It was actually a palm reader in New Orleans, because I did write for fun every night, but it wasn't even on my radar to try and get anything published. So she really opened up everything that day with that one question.
Yeah, and that's a great story. I love it. And especially because she was on target with so much
Mm-hmm.
that you had this trust in her vision, right?
Right, right.
And for her suggestion at the end,
Mm-hmm.
and it's amazing. I'm a hypnotherapist. It's amazing the power that a suggestion can have on someone. And
Yes.
I have to compare it to a story of I have a friend who went to a psychic or card reader or something years and years ago when she was young. And she was engaged, and the woman told her that she would never be married.
Oh.
And you're like, that's so helpful. She broke off the engagement. Like she's never been married.
Wow.
Like she believed, like somehow she goes, well, she told me I was never going to be married. And I'm like, why'd you break the engagement? I just didn't think it was going to work, you know? And it's funny how that, and so, throw out to parents out there or, teachers, be careful what you say, because it really can, light a spark in the
Mm-hmm.
right direction or the wrong direction. Anyway, but
Right.
I love that. And so you ended up just going with it and didn't stop. And I assume you're still writing those in that genre as well.
Yeah, I've actually published my first thriller, and I still write short stories. And then I finished a tarot for writers class a couple years ago, and everybody was like, "You should write a book." And I thought, okay, I don't write nonfiction. But then
Yeah,
I couldn't stop thinking about it. I told my husband, I think I'm going to write a tarot book. He was like, okay. He's my biggest supporter. So that's lucky. Um,
that's important too, isn't it? I'll
yes,
tell you
so
what, like,
important.
what the heck are you doing? You think it's going to go anywhere? Yeah,
Right, right.
yeah, that's fantastic. So tell me about so What led you to tarot in the first place? Was it just simply an interest in metaphysics? Were you always interested in tarot and that it was something that you built on? How did you
Yeah,
become a reader yourself?
actually, that was an interesting journey. So I've always been interested in tarot, I guess, from a teenager, just because I love paranormal things.
Mhm.
And however, I bought my first deck probably when I was 20, and it was the Rider Waite deck because everybody tells you that's the starter deck. And I could not connect with those cards. It's full of angry men on every card. And I just was like, I don't get it. And I kept trying to memorize that book and nothing stuck. And it didn't feel intuitive. And so I was like, well, I must be broken. I guess I can't read tarot, but I enjoyed the art. So I started collecting. So I had a whole bunch of decks. And finally, the Mystic Dreamer was the deck that really started opening things up for me because it was full of women on the deck, and
Okay.
it was a little bit fantastical. If you've ever worked with that deck, the Mystic Dreamer.
No, I don't. That's one I need to rent out and buy, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's Colette Baron Reed, but it's a beautiful
Oh,
deck.
maybe
Very
I do because I have so many of her decks, and sometimes I just go, okay, and
well, she's
get the phone
known
back
for
out.
her oracle decks, but this is actually a traditional tarot deck.
Huh.
Um, but anyway, it
While
had
you're talking, I'm
women.
going to just show some of these cards. Keep going.
Oh yeah. Had women on the deck, and little fantasy elements, and that's when I really started to connect with it, and I started recognizing cycles in the tarot, and that is when everything clicked and I could read off any deck. And as I was doing readings, I like to educate while I read, so I usually fill them in on what part of the cycle this is and which aspect of their life and all, just because
Hmm.
sometimes people can glean other messages that I don't even realize is a personal
Right.
message for them. And so in doing that, I guess I went from reading because I'm so passionate about it that I started teaching.
Hmm.
And I would teach I called it practical tarot because so many people, I think it's because of movies and books, it
Yeah,
becomes
they like,
a plot point.
ooh. Yeah.
Yeah, and it becomes this plot point of something that you do at a party and you read for your friends. And even my dad knew I was tarot reading at different shops and things. I was in San Diego then, and he would call me and go, are you telling futures? I'm like, that is not what I do.
A stockbroker. Yeah. Just kidding.
Yes,
Not
yes.
those kind. Yeah. That would be nice.
Yeah. So anyway, when I started teaching, I called it practical tarot because it is a practical tool that you can use
Hmm.
for personal development, for manifesting, for pretty much anything. And if you're a creative, oh my gosh, gets your ego right out of the way so you can tap into your intuition. So I every time I teach, I try to hit home that this isn't some mystical thing that stays up on a shelf. It should be just a practical tool you use in your life every day. That you're working on something and you're like, ugh, I'm kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And you pull out your cards and spread them out and go, what should I do next? And pull a card, and that first inkling, that's your intuition. And so for me, it's a very practical tool that I use in lots of areas of my life. And so when I teach the class and when I teach tarot for writers, it's kind of like, I know the book says to demystify it, but that's kind of what it is when I'm teaching it, is that it tarot is a beautiful map of the cycles of our lives. When you go through the minor arcana and you go from ace to 10, it's not just an arc of goodness. It's up and down and up and down and
Yeah.
up and down, just like real life. And so anyway, so I find them to be a great personal development tool, which was why I put manifesting tips for each card and meditation journal tips for each card, because I feel like if you work with tarot enough, it's just a really handy tool to get validation. Maybe you're having a hard time trusting your intuition, and you're getting that voice, but you're also getting that negative
Yeah,
self-talk going, you can't do it, you don't know enough.
right.
And you can pull a tarot card and get that validation of, oh my gosh, okay, I should do this. And you always get the card you need. So it's just, I find it to be a beautiful tool for myself, for personal development. I use it with clients. And I just think that if you can demystify it a little bit to make it a handy, useful tool, it can become a partner as you work through things.
Mm-hmm. You know, and I read for people too, and you and I are very much on the same page as far as how, what the tool is.
Right.
I tell people this is to help you guide yourself.
Yes.
And I think even in your book, I often use the same words. I think even in your book, I found nothing's written in stone, right?
Right.
It's not, I always say, okay, this is as things stand right now. You
Right.
know, that,
Today.
like right now I'm seeing this. What you see, I also love to use the images. That's why I love beautiful cards.
Right.
I will often have somebody say, sometimes before I do an interpretation at all, I might say, tell me what you see in here. Where do your eyes go? When you think of
Yeah.
when you think of what your issue is, what do you see in here that means something to you? You
Right.
know? And I actually just used this. Who did I do this with? Oh, but it wasn't with your deck. It was before I had this, but I did it with the Rider-Waite recently with one of my clients. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what do you see in here? And she goes, well, I see the such and such. And I'm like, what does that mean to you? And it's such a wealth of like so many different ways you can use it, like you're saying, right? And
Right.
and it's not about, oh, I see a tall, dark man in your future. And
Right.
as many times as someone's read the tarot for me, I'm like, where's the tall, dark guy with, the horse and the castle?
Right. Right. What time does he get here and what color
Yeah,
shirt is he
I,
wearing?
I'm on a schedule.
Yes.
um, anyway, but it's yeah, I as I was reading through your book a bit, I was like, oh yeah, I was saying this is a great book because it does, like so many books, like you say, they're like this card means that card means that. Yeah,
Right.
that's great to have. Um, like here's the traditional meaning, but you've got to combine your intuition, right?
Yes.
And sometimes
Yes.
the same card doesn't always mean the same thing. I'll have a
Mhm.
friend, I'll lay out some cards for her, and she's, oh, that's a bad card. And like you say, also it depends on the cards around it. And it
Yes.
depends
They
on the
tell a
path.
story. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're not just like, oh, bad card, you're out of luck. Well, how about that Three of Swords, especially in the Rider-Waite, right?
Hmm. Right. Right.
um,
I call that the drama card.
yeah, it's just like, this is a possibility. And a lot of times I will like to draw another card off of it, like
Hmm.
ask another question. If I don't like what this looks like, how can I change my path?
Right.
What do I need to do? Um, so I just think this, so as you mentioned before we started recording, the book is a separate entity, this book,
Right.
from the deck. The deck does come spilling your cards. Could you hear that all over the place?
Oh no.
Um, that's okay, but now
78 card
I can
pickup.
I can do a reading from the ones that landed face up. It'll
Yes.
probably tell me something. But with the deck is also a magnificent book. And I have to, I said this in my Instagram preview, but Beyond Words does such a, or whoever manufactures these, whoever puts these out does the most beautiful job with the materials. They
Hmm.
are sturdy, they're beautifully packed. They're not going to fall apart on you. The pages
Right.
are smooth, and they're like little gems.
Yeah. Yeah,
The,
I agree. And that guidebook in full color, I was like, wow, it looks fantastic.
and
Yes.
so the
Love
book
that.
that comes with the deck is just gorgeous itself. It has the full
Hmm.
color images of the cards, and then it by number, the minor arcana, major arcana. It even has in the beginning of it's got its table of contents. It has your introduction, but it also, I believe, has some layouts here.
Some tarot spreads. Yeah.
It has everything you need. And then if you really want to, be a better, more intuitive reader,
Right.
instead of just grab that book, then you
Hmm.
can also get guidance from this gorgeous book that just has all this information. Then at the back, it also has all the color images of the cards. Because let's ask you this next question, or kind of lead you in this next area. Color, you
Hmm.
bring that up in your book. So
I do.
tell me more about, how color plays into the creation of the cards, and choosing colors or as you're reading.
Right. I love that question because as a tarot card collector, I have so many. And I think that color is sadly an ignored thing in a lot of decks because they're going with a theme. And so all the cards are this color. And color can be a huge trigger for your intuition. We just, as human beings, we have learned to associate different things with different colors. Pink is love, and red is passion, or drama, and purple is divine, kings, queens, god, all that kind of thing, and green is manifesting and money, and yellow is joy, and there's just so many color triggers for us that we don't even realize. It's
Yeah.
subconscious. And anybody who, and maybe this is my background with the family business and window shades, but
Yeah.
in marketing, color makes
Oh,
all the
yes.
difference.
All those fast food restaurants are red and yellow and orange
Yes.
because they
Uh-huh. They
stimulate,
make you
they,
hungry.
yeah, they stimulate
Mm-hmm.
that base core, like, belly
Mm-hmm.
and lower chakra.
Yeah, orange is your physical, your physical body and health. And so yeah, it's your hunger, your appetite, your nurturing, all that kind of stuff. And so when I set out to make this deck, Holly Carton was the artist, and she
Nice,
was
nice
so
job. Beautiful.
aren't they beautiful? She's so fantastic, and she doesn't know anything about tarot. So we went through 3 rounds of edits on every card. It took a long time, but she was so fantastic about color, because I would tell her the traditional meaning of the card. I would give her symbolism that I would like to see on it, different animals or whatever, and then I would mention color, and she took it from there. And I'm so happy
Oh,
with how they all turned out. And she really grabbed the concepts, like, I told her that swords is air, it represents our thoughts, and she managed to almost always have the sky and clouds on every card for swords, just to help remind you that
yeah.
it's air, just like cups is water, and all that. And working with her was really fun. And we tried to make as many connections for you so that you don't have to memorize a book. So when you pick up any card, major arcana or minor arcana, in the practical tarot deck, you can get a message without ever picking up the guidebook. You don't have to know anything about tarot. If you pick up the Six of Swords and you see her looking a little disconcerted in a boat, not holding the oars with the swords in front, there's somebody who
Yeah.
feels like they're just going downstream. They're meeting everyone else's expectations and not
Mm.
worried about themselves, so there's plenty of ways for you to connect with the card, even if you don't know what it traditionally means. And
Yeah.
I always feel like your interpretation is much more important than what the book says, because you drew that card for a reason.
Yeah.
Yes, the Eight of Swords. Love that card.
Gorgeous. Yeah, and I do appreciate, all the artwork is
Mhm.
gorgeous. And what was her name again?
Holly Carton. And she is a watercolorist and an illustrator. And you can find her on Instagram. She
Okay.
posts they're so gorgeous. And she's very into flowers and plants.
Mm.
And so a lot of her artwork for people is commissioned art, where she'll do like their profile and fill it in with different plants that represent their personality. Anyway, it's beautiful.
Wow.
She does
I
really
will have
amazing
to
work.
I will have to see if I can go back and tag her on the The
Yes, the
cards.
Nine of Pentacles.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love that. Uh, anyway, so I'm lost in the cards now. Now I'm going,
They're so
I'm,
beautiful.
I'm going blank. I'm like, ooh. So do you have um do you have more tarot deck ideas coming, floating around in your sword sky up there?
I do. I do. As a writer, I always feel like things are percolating, those old coffee makers that would go bloop, bloop,
Oh yeah.
bloop.
And the
Yeah.
coffee was so good, right?
Right.
It really was good, actually. I don't.
And so I always feel like these ideas are percolating. But when I did the practical tarot project, it did come to mind that I would like to do a practical manifesting and a practical meditation decks. They wouldn't be tarot; those would be
Right.
oracle, but they would be arranged like the minor arcana of tarot. So it would be manifesting. If you drew a cups, it would be working on your emotional vibration for your manifesting. And if you drew, so anyway, it's still percolating, but yeah,
Yeah.
I would love it to be a trilogy where your little self-development cards where you have practical tarot, practical manifesting, and practical meditation.
There you
But
go.
those are those are still out there
Well,
percolating.
yeah, they're up there in the vortex. And that
Yes.
was something I was going to that kind of came into my mind while we were talking about, color, just to, bring up when you talk about like how we associate colors with
Mm-hmm.
different things. And then if you think about the chakras,
Right. Right.
there's red, orange, yellow, and these colors are associated with different parts of our life, our personality, our interactions. So
Right.
red is those lower base,
Mm-hmm.
like you say, animal
Yes, that drama.
passion,
Yeah.
instinct. Yeah, it's like, oh, and whereas when you get up here to the heart, we've got green, and it's just a little more, oh, springtimey, and even if you've ever seen one of those frequency charts,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
the colors have, lower to higher frequency,
Right.
and it is fascinating how it is just simply innate to
Mm-hmm.
our human nature, to our how you can subconsciously pass
Right.
a message on, and the purple
Mm-hmm.
is associated with, much more spiritual. So,
Right.
you think of like the priest at Easter, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, the wearing the purple.
Wearing
Yeah.
the purple. There's all, and kings were, I
Mm-hmm.
think it used to be like only the king could wear purple or something like that
Right.
in England. So that's another fun rabbit hole to go
Right.
down, and how we can subconsciously influence ourselves, as well
Mm-hmm.
as others by the colors we choose. I don't know what it means that I'm always wanting to wear black. It's like, you know,
I always think of black as a purifying color because of charcoal. You
oh,
know how way back when in the days when people were poisoning each other at the royal court, the only way
ah,
you could save them is to eat charcoal as quick as possible to soak up the toxins and maybe you live.
interesting.
And so for me, every time I see a bunch of black, I see that it's purified. It's a, clean chalkboard. You can wear whatever
Mm,
color jewelry you want over it,
yeah, it is
all that kind
fun.
of stuff.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
always
So
just throw color on top of the black. And I was just saying
exactly.
to someone yesterday, I said, the great thing about black is people don't say, "Oh, you're wearing those pants again." You know,
Right. Yeah, they can't tell.
yeah. And I have 6 pairs of the same black pants, but
Yeah.
it's like, no, these are different ones, and they just look just like the other black pants. So
Right.
anyway, I don't have to think about it. Anyway, so let me find out more about your titles of your other books.
Hmm.
What, you say you've written, did you say, well, tell me, I want to, like you say, you've written your first thriller, but before that, there were a lot of more, you know,
Yes. Yeah.
say
My first
scary
series.
guys in the dark kind of thing going on, or,
Yeah. Yeah. My first series, of course, was vampires because that's what I was in love with at the time. So the Night series is vampires, but instead of being based in Europe, they're actually descended from the Mayans.
Oh,
And
wow.
so that was my first series. And then I have written several series of shifters, romance. And those are fun because typically when you have like a wolf shifter, wolves mate for life. And so I love playing with that trope of a fated mate, but she isn't a werewolf. So if you screw it up, it will be
Yeah.
alone forever. So
Yeah.
it just makes the stakes really high.
Yeah.
So
Huh.
that's fun. And I wrote a series about the Greek muses if they were alive today.
Ooh.
And each woman is a vessel for a different muse, and how it affects her personality. And so those were really fun, especially because the women were the paranormal and the men had no idea what is happening.
I
So
think
that was
that's
great.
normal anyway, don't you? That's the kind
Right,
of
right.
that's more real
Yes,
world. Like, what is going
yes.
on with you?
For sure.
Uh,
And I've written, I have a thriller trilogy that I'm working on now. The first book is out called Perfect, and it is about cloning perfect children. And their intention had been so high and pure, but it has turned into this darker thing. And so, anyway, that one is the Genesis trilogy. And the first book is out now, and Flawed will be out hopefully in spring. So anyway, I have quite a few series for people to jump into. If you love Buffy and Angel, I do have one Demon Slayer standalone that I love. It's called Beg Me to Slay. And trying to think if I'm leaving anything out. Oh, I also have some Fae books with magical people from Summerland.
oh, yeah. Okay.
Yes, and those are very fun if you like fish out of water books because the Fae cross over into our world, and I made the heroes purposely extremely human, but the Fae see something in them that they do not. Like one of them, she comes through at Comic-Con and meets a guy who's dressed as Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, and
Okay.
she sees him as a king, but he actually works at Jiffy Lube.
Yeah,
And so
that sounds
anyway,
like so much fun.
yeah,
Uh,
so the Summerland stories are very magical if you like that. There's a Christmas one that always gets really popular at the holidays, called A Winter's Wish. And that one, she is a warrior elf who has to find the blood of the wisher, and she pops through the veil right at Christmas time and gets put on a Christmas float. And the guy who is dressed up as the mall Santa is an out of work songwriter who
yeah.
needs extra money to pay his rent, but he's
Oh,
actually the wisher. So anyway, that one's really fun. So
that's
I write
great.
fantastical, stories that they're just very fun for me because the stakes are so much higher than just like a contemporary romance. So for me, I need the stakes to be life and death or end of the world or something big and paranormal.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And how much, I would assume a lot of research goes into, the background for you to create from some of this, like the fairy world or the
Right.
or the
Yes.
Mayans, or
Yes.
so you can throw in that, element of like, well, this is actually a real thing, and could it be? That's
Right,
always fun,
right.
right?
I have a series, it's an Immortal Pirate series that's set in Savannah, Georgia, where actual pirates were. And so my premise is that their final plunder happened to be the Holy Grail, and they all drank from it not knowing. And so they're still there in Savannah since 1700s, and now they have
Uh,
regular jobs and all that. But those kind of series are very fun because I can pull in the whole history of a city because this person's actually been there.
yeah.
So yeah, I do pull in a lot of research to try to make it as real as possible. And I usually try to go where I set the books, so that, I think it makes a huge difference. For instance, one of my vampire books, Night Thief, it takes place in Paris way back when Napoleon's body was returned to France. And when I wrote that, I had gone on a trip with my son's choir to sing in Paris, and they got to sing in Notre Dame,
Oh,
which was really
wow.
cool. But something that I never would have been able to learn off Googling was that when we walked in, we went in wintertime, and when we walked into Notre Dame, it was colder in the cathedral than it was
Oh,
outside because there's no heat. It's an
oh, I
old,
didn't. I wonder if they've
yeah.
changed that now that they've rebuilt it.
Yeah,
There's,
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, if they
I
got
didn't know
some
that
kind
either.
of climate
Yeah.
control, but yeah, when we went, there was no climate control, and it just never occurred to me that it would be colder inside than outside, but it was. So I was able to put that in the book, but I feel like I'm a really good Googler. Don't get me wrong, but I love when you can go there and find out where would they have coffee, where would they go,
Right.
what would they do for a job and stuff like that. And it's easier to do that if you can go.
Yeah. Actually walk down the street and comment on the color of the brick,
Yes.
that sort of thing. And because you can't always get everything. And, I'm sorry, but sometimes your job just calls for you to have to go to
I
Savannah
know,
or
darn it, have to go
Paris.
to Savannah, have to go
Yeah.
to Paris. I've
I
been up
feel
to
like,
Salem.
oh, yeah. I was just telling my daughter we need to take a trip up there. I went years and years ago. It's a great,
Oh, it's
little
such a
2 or
great.
3 day trip to just,
Mm-hmm.
and I see in your future, I think you need to go to Russia,
Ooh,
maybe St. Petersburg.
wow. Okay.
I will live vicariously. Yeah, unless you need somebody to carry
You
your
say that, and
luggage.
I'm like, ooh, that sounds scary.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm just seeing it. I'm just seeing it come true for you. Maybe some sort of metaphysical something about there's got to be some cool history there,
I'm
right?
sure that there is. Yeah.
Anyway, is there anything else you want to share? I feel like I have a zillion questions, but no, they're going away. So anything else you want to share about what you're doing, about the deck, about
Um, Well, the deck and the book are out now, but I wanted to also share from the book as well, is that with the tarot cards, you're going to get a guidebook that has the traditional meanings of the
Mhm.
cards and some spreads. But if you really want to get a connection with your cards where you don't have to use the traditional meaning, in the book there are a whole bunch of exercises and things to
Mm,
try with your cards, because my goal is for you to be able to feel comfortable enough that you can use them to go, what do I want to wear today? And you pull it out and you're like, oh, she's wearing red sounds good. You can use it for mundane things like that.
love
And
it.
every time you use it, you get quicker at connecting with your intuition. So those exercises are in the book. And also the colors, like we talked about, are in the book. And also symbolism, what a turtle means on a card, what a
Yeah, I was
unicorn
looking
means
through
on a
that.
card.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. And I also present, like I do when I'm teaching, the cycles, how the cycle goes forward, back, forward, back, forward, back, and
Hmm.
how they mirror each other in the minor arcana, so that hopefully you can get to where you can see the number and the images and you don't have to go to the guidebook. So if you want that deeper connection, I highly recommend trying the book, because it has opened up tarot for so many people. It was so fun going through the book with the editors at Beyond Words, because at one point at the end, she left a note and she goes, I feel like I learned a lot more about tarot. I was like,
Yeah,
woohoo!
that's
Because
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
because just knowing, feeling the cycles, just like our regular life,
Hmm.
again, helps you to connect with those cards. And if you want to get extra woo woo about it, you always draw the card you need, because your guides and angels are trying to get you a message.
Yeah.
And when you pull that card, they may know that roses remind you of your grandma. and you pull that card and there's roses all over it, the message is your grandma is with you still and she loves you and she's proud of you. It has nothing to do with what I put in the guidebook of the traditional meaning,
Exactly.
and you always get the card you need. And sometimes it has nothing to do with,
The
what a
meaning,
guidebook says. It has
right?
everything to do with what your guides and angels know this will mean to you personally. So,
Right.
so keep that in mind too. And the book goes into that more also.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's absolutely a standalone. You don't have to have it with the deck. It's more
Right.
fun if you buy it
It's
and the
more
deck.
fun if you can play with the cards
If you
too.
buy it
But
with the cards and the deck. If you're going to have the cards, you might as well have that book. Or if you're going to have that book, you might as well have the cards that you can see the images of that we're talking about in the practical tarot method. So, but I think it's really a great team,
yes,
and
yes.
and I think you're right about, even if, for example, you set the intention before pulling the card,
Mm-hmm.
maybe say, show me, something clear.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be the meaning of the card, like you say, right?
Exactly.
And then you say,
Exactly.
okay, oh, tie me to my guides, or tie me to, show me the image that I need to see, right? So, and here we go. So I pull the Fool, right?
Ah,
Like it
I love
means,
that.
yeah,
Yeah. So
the,
your guides and angels want you to take that leap of faith. Stop hesitating. You're going to
just,
grow wings and you don't even know it.
or I have them, but they're behind me and I can never see
You
them.
can't see them.
Yeah, maybe there's something everybody else can see my wings but me, right?
Uh-huh. Yes.
There you go.
Which is
Oh,
often the case because we doubt
yeah.
ourselves and everyone else can see how awesome we are.
Uh-huh. I love it. I love it. I actually do love that card. I did a little spread for myself, like I often just, go toward a three
Past,
card
present,
kind of a thing.
future,
Yep.
or
And then
yeah.
I draw off, like, oh, tell me
Mm-hmm.
more. And your I had just done one with the Rider Waite on the same question. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
let's see what these cards say. And it was, when you talk about synchronicity, that they weren't the same cards, but they said the same story.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended with the Fool. And
Oh, I love
okay,
it.
so I was like, okay, so I see that this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Started with the devil.
Yes, give it what no longer serves you.
And I'm like, okay. And then then I think somewhere in there was a chariot,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, okay, I can see some action going on moving forward.
Right.
Um, and then the Ten of Cups,
Oh,
and
yay.
some other goods, and it was bringing this path to this new beginning. And,
Yes, this
and
new opportunity that you're
and
going
so
to
I said,
leap into.
that's good. I'll stop there. Do
Yes.
you ever do
Yes.
that? It's like,
Yes.
what? Oh wait, I'm going to stop there before it pulls something else up that I like. Sometimes I go, oh, that I'm done. That wasn't.
Well, sometimes if you don't make those changes,
Mhm.
then your guides and angels will continue to have you draw the same card. I
Yeah,
have clients who are like, oh my gosh, if I get the Three of Wands one more time. And I'm like, then why don't you take action? If you take
yeah,
action, they will stop having you draw that card.
yeah. It's
You're
just like
ready.
life, isn't it? You know, it's just like keep doing the same thing and nothing's going to change, right? So
Right, right.
it is a reflection of the real world, and it can definitely open up your intuition if you
Mm-hmm.
connect and you allow yourself to trust your intuition, and
Yes.
be a partner with the tarot.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, okay, I read that and put it away and
Right.
go do the
It
same old
sticks
thing.
with you, even if you just pull one card a day of
Yeah,
with the intention of what is my focus. It can change your life because all day you're thinking about that card and you're like, you know what? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to, and it can really change the trajectory. I have in the book that tarot doesn't tell the future. It facilitates the future.
hmm,
Because a lot of people come to tarot thinking it's going to tell them the
what
future,
to do. Yeah,
and the thing is, all it does is give you intuitive insights into what you could make happen. Like you'd keep drawing that Fool card. So obviously likely there's an opportunity. You just have to believe in yourself, and you'll probably keep drawing it until you do. Take
Until I
that little
figure out,
leap of faith.
I stood there and I'm like, what is that opportunity? You know, reveal yourself. I have a friend also. I think uh oh gosh, I'm going blank on her name, Barton Reed. Um talks about tarot abuse.
Oh, yes, where you overdraw.
You just keep drawing because you don't like what it says.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So I have a friend, she goes, when she's having a hard time, draw me a card, draw me a card, like it's going to magically change something. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, you know, and then so finally I had to tell her, I'm not doing this more than once a week for you. Okay.
Right,
Because like she
right.
would every day say, what's my card? You know, I'm like, give it time to sink in. And how about you see what happens? Because she, you know, kept wanting it to tell her something, a different outcome, or tell her
Right.
something that she, you know,
That
I
she
said, you're,
wanted to hear.
yeah,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, I'm like, yeah, well, this card says, unless you do this, that's, you know, like you need to,
Right. In one of my fiction books, Magnolia Mystic, that's the name of her little metaphysical shop in Savannah, and she's a tarot card reader. And at one point, she tells someone, tarot isn't going to tell you what to do, because otherwise you wouldn't live your life. That's not their job. Their job is to give you insight, you know, to give you validation. Maybe you're nervous about something and you can pull that tarot card and go, okay, it's meant to be, here I go, you know, and validate. It's not to tell you how to live your life.
yeah,
We have
it's,
free will. We're supposed to do that.
and like you said in the very beginning of this, it's a tool.
It's
It's a
just a
tool.
tool.
And,
Yes.
and I think it's so helpful in the way that we do get stuck in our minds. We get stuck
Mm-hmm.
up here in our thoughts and other people, and we lose connection with, like, we have a gut feeling, but we're not sure what that
Right.
is. And
Right.
so sometimes just pulling that card
Mm-hmm.
says, oh, you know, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's like having that other voice come in and to help you out, you know, knowing what you're talking about or thinking about in what direction to
Right.
put your thoughts or actions. So
Right.
anyway, I just want to say thank you. This has been so much fun talking to you, and
Thank you. Yeah, this has been great. Super
it's been a
fun.
lot of fun. And I still feel like as soon as we say goodbye, I'm going to have that other question that goes bing, bing. But so just go ahead and tell people where they can find you. And I will be putting that down, like where to get the deck. Deck is on what, Amazon or most
Amazon, Barnes
booksellers.
and Noble,
Yeah.
Books a Million, Beyond Words has their own store. You can buy it from
Okay.
there. And you can find me at authorlisakessler.com. Kessler has two S's, or at metaphysicalmanifesting.com. And I'm on all the social medias under Lisa Kessler or Metaphysical Manifesting, and I'm pretty friendly, so reach out.
Yeah, you're super friendly. Very nice. Yeah. It's been a joy. And I'll have all those details in the details about where to get the deck and the book and where to find Lisa. And I'm just going to say thank you for being here.
Thank you
And,
so much for having me.
and
This was fun.
thank you to my audience for being here. And I'll see you next time on Intuitive Journey with Desiree.